Hi everyone, this is Chet with 10 Stories, and we're back at it again with another pro tip. Today we're going to be covering how to create the titles for the pro tip series. I'm going to fire up After Effects. We're using CC 2015, but this is a project that doesn't do anything new or really all that special. You can use some of the much older versions of After Effects and still get the same results out of this one. This one's very simple, easy, minimal. That's what makes it a quick tip. It's great. Anyway, let's get started here. We have a new file. Let's get started with a new comp. We're going to be working in 1920 by 1080 at 2997. Let's make the duration a little bit longer. Let's put this to 10 seconds. Alright, so first things first, let's just create a background. Now, any color will work, but we went with a dark purple. Why is everything starting up in this corner? We had a nice dark purple for ours, but let's do a dark tealish. Why not? That's a nice color. Alright, so once you get your background set, let's lock the layer because we're not really going to be doing anything with that anymore. So just hit that lock there. So for the sake of unoriginality, I'm going to be typing up production pro tips because that's what we use. Make sure you're using left blind on your paragraph style. When you type up your title, make sure each line is a separate text layer. It's just going to make things simpler for our purposes here. And you will be splitting up these words a little bit, but just bear with me for a second. So let's get these things put into the correct place. They're a little bit far apart right now and they're not totally aligned. You can open up your align panel under window align here. I like to keep mine in the bottom right because I use it a lot. But if you just hit this horizontal left alignment, it's pretty handy. But they're also still a little bit far apart. Alright, so now that you have your titles typed up, nicely aligned, we're gonna chop this up a little bit. It's really simple what you gotta do. Hit Q and you just get it so that it's on Pro without induction. Just align it there. And then duplicate your layer with Command D or Control D if you're on Windows. Hit M to bring up your mask panel. And you can just hit either subtract here or this inverted checkbox. And it'll have the same exact mask, except now instead of masking that in, it's masking that out. So one layer is Pro, the other layer is Duction. So let's go ahead and type that out so we know which is which. Set that to Duction and set that to Pro. Easy. And we're going to do basically the same thing here. Let's go ahead and set this to another color. Let's put it as blue. Why not? So same idea. Get with your mask. Make sure you only have Pro. And then we're going to duplicate the layer. And we're going to invert that mask. Easy. So now that you have your titles typed up, chopped up, otherwise ready to go, bring in some assets for this. And we're going to talk about how to set up Illustrator files at another point, but just trust that this was set up properly. So here's the fun part. Creating your alphas. Now that everything's separate, it's its own layer. We got Pro and Duction, etc. We got to create our masks. The cool thing about this is that you only really need two different shapes to work with. So if you hit Command Y or Control Y if you're on Windows, you can create a solid. Really doesn't matter what the color is. I like to set my alphas as yellow, and all you really got to do is position this down a little bit. This isn't labeled. We got presents and 10 stories. So see how this is just a little bit. Here, we're actually going to change the color. If you hit Command Shift Y or Control Shift Y, you get a different color. But I just want you to be able to see where exactly this is. There's a little bit of space here. We're going to knock it up just a little bit. You don't need it touching. You don't need this to be right up on it, but you do want it to be close. So you have presents, and all you gotta do is say alpha inverted, and then boom, your cyan mask disappears. What's the point of that? It's not doing anything. Well, if you're not familiar with masks, if you were to move this down into where that cyan layer exists, you don't see presents anymore. And that's going to be the basis for how we're animating this. So all I want you to do is duplicate that mask. Actually, let's rename this to mask, and then duplicate. And then alpha masks always react to the layer that's directly above it. The next step, we're going to select both of these because they're going to be doing effectively the same move. It's just going to be staggered. So if you hit Option P or Alt Shift P if you're on Windows, you're going to create a position keyframe. And if you hit the home button to go back, we're at 1 second on the timeline. If you hit home, you go back to 0 on your timeline. And let's just drag these on down so that they're invisible. And hey, now you got yourself some position. Well, that's way slow, but don't worry, we'll fix that. And we're going to do effectively the same thing for all of the other words. So let's duplicate this mask. Now we're going to start with Pro in production. Now when you're dealing with this here, we don't want a vertical move, we want a horizontal move. We're going to put this right in between Pro and the rest of the words. So, same basic concept, just duplicate that mask yet again. Now when we get to, just for the sake of ease, we don't really need to move this mask around for duction. All we gotta do is, instead of doing an alpha inverted, as we did for Pro, just do an alpha. So instead of saying, hey, have this word appear where this isn't, now we can say, have this word appear where the mask is. Makes sense? Got it? Isn't that clever? Haha, alright, yeah, whatever. Y'all ain't impressed. Same exact thing for Pro Tips. Same exact concept. We don't even have to move it. That's the beauty of this layout. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it incredible? So here we are again, Option P or Alt Shift P if you're on Windows, and just move this stuff out of frame. So you got your duction, just make sure that duction don't appear. Get that out of there. Actually, matter of fact, we're gonna get both pros just so it's doing the exact same move here. Look at that, look at that. They're gone. They're out of there. Tips, you're done. Now we got nothing. We're starting from 0. Oh, look at that. But that's horrible. We're not doing anything yet. This is, you know, that's baby stuff. And we're trying to animate here. We're trying to get something good. That's when we open the graph editor. Boom. Now, you may not be used to using the graph editor. I'm just here to let you know, and there's nothing to be afraid of. I've had people tell me, nah man, don't mess with that. You don't need that. It's too advanced. No. The graph editor is your friend, and you're going to learn it, and you're going to master it. So, hit this button here while you have all of your end keyframes selected, because all we're going to mess with is our end keyframe. Open up a graph editor, make sure you're set to the speed graph. It usually defaults to the value graph, but when you're dealing with position, it doesn't give you enough control when you're messing with the value editor. Hit it so that you're editing the speed graph. And now you see you got these handles here. That's what we're going to be messing with. So you still already have your keyframes all selected, so you don't have to worry about anything from here. You're going to hit this magical easy ease in button. And if you hit 0 on your keyboard, okay, you know, there's a little bit more going on here. It's got some finesse to it. But again, it's just, you know, it's not very exciting. But you see this little handle right here? You see this guy? Look at that. Just waiting to be dragged. Well, let's zoom out a little bit and let's drag that sucker. And now, look at that. Look how exciting that move is. That's really all you need. So let's zoom back out, click that graph editor button again, And let's navigate. But of course, now we can't just have all of it at once. That's not a title. Well, all you gotta do is just reorder your layers. So what we just did by dragging that all the way over is that we put all of the speed of this movement right here, right around 3 frames. And it's a second long. So by the end of it, it's really just slow into that end. It makes it nice and smooth, real buttery. But there's really not much happening in these last 10 keyframes. You see Duction is moving a bit because it has the largest move. That's this top one here. That's going the fastest. But all of the others, especially that 10 stories presents, they're not really moving much. When you're staggering your movements, you don't want to wait for one move to finish to start the other. That's going to end up making this whole thing much longer than it needs to be. It's going to make this whole thing a little bit boring to look at. You know, where you have, oh, one thing starts and then the next thing and then the next thing. Now we want to have some overlap. First things first, we're going to start with 10 stories presents. We said those last 10 keyframes are about where the action stops. Well, start this at 20. And once that's going, hey, another 10 keyframes, we're going to start with this pro. And then, you know what? We have even less time on this one. We're going to do the next pro. Bam. And if you're unfamiliar, it's left bracket to have your layer start at the selected frame that you're at. And then we're going to move forward a bit. Let's give that, yeah, let's do the old 20 keyframes on that one. And we're going to have Duction. Now, I committed a bit of a mistake. But that's okay, you're going to join me on my corrective journey. Because Tips does a different move. Tips isn't supposed to be coming in from the left. Tips is supposed to be coming in from the bottom and pushing up Duction. We can have the same end keyframe here. It's the start keyframe that needs to change. There's a few ways to correct this, but the first thing we got to make sure is that our mask is in the right place. So as it is right now, we need to drop this a bit. Ends at the right place. Oh, no, excuse me, we need to raise this. Pops up into frame. Okay? So you can see the corners of this. So I can turn it back on so you can see where it is. But you can also just look at the corner handles here to see where that mask is positioned. There's a few ways to do this. We can, you know, delete this first keyframe and just do it manually. But I'm going to show you something a little more useful. When you're dealing with position keyframes, you can just take this handle. You can just click that. And we're just going to bring that straight down. And of course, there's other ways to do this as well. And I think I'm going to correct this. But I just figured that's a good time to show, hey, that is a thing you can do. Now you can also take these handles and mess with that, but we're not going to do that. We just want it to go straight. Oh, hey, I actually got that right. Look at that. We don't even have to correct it. If you hit J and K, you can bounce between next keyframes. But as you can see, the X position doesn't move here, which means, hey, I'm a baller and I got that right. We got Tips sliding up from the bottom as it should, but Duction's not going anywhere. Well, it's about to. It's not long for this world. So let's get Tips where they need to be. Let's give that a little bit more time, actually. Yeah, so we have a little bit more time on Duction, and then Tips comes up and will land. And really, to get Duction on out of there, it's very simple. Because we already have a move. Now we can try and mimic this move, and that's not even that difficult, but why go with not that difficult when you can instead have this is easy? So make sure your Duction mask is positioned properly so that it ends just above where the word is. Again, we can check it there, or we can look at these handles here and just bring that down a little bit. And at the start of the move of Tips, at the start of this, take the pick whip, parent Duction to Tips, and boom, get that bad boy out of there. And that's pretty much it. You can finesse the timing a little bit more, but let's take a look at what we've got going. And that's basically it. I would do some things to mess with, you know, start this a little bit earlier and slow down some other moves, but for all intents and purposes, that's our title. Ain't that looking smooth? So that's gonna do it for today. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to 10 Stories, and stay tuned for the next installment of Pro Tips. This is Chet with 10 Stories, and we'll see you in the next one.